first of all, I feel like we've all kind of nicely rolled in here. We've got a beautiful group. I wanted to welcome you all to Optimize Your Life. This is a brand new partnership between Google and the University of Southern California. We've been chatting already for a few minutes, but my name is Sarah Ivanhoe, and I'm the new yoga director at the university, and really excited to kick off this sort of first ever wellness mentorship program. And so as you can see, this is going to be we didn't want this to be a big official speaker series with thousands of people. We wanted to keep this as an intimate conversation so that all of you could really have access to our speakers and be able to chat and have a dialogue and to really have some personal contact. So all of you that are here have, Gopi, everybody had the assignment of watching several of your programs on Glow. So you already got a sense of that. So they got a sense of practicing with you, and they've all read your, a very official and impressive bio that's up on your website. But what I wanted to do, instead of talking about, oh, you went to Wharton Business School and all these sort of like fancy things that you do, I wanted to, from my heart, share with the group just for a minute or two my experience with Gopi. And I met Gopi, I'm going to say between 10 and 15 years ago at this point. And we met at a yoga festival. And somebody had told me, oh, there's Gopi, and he's a very fancy and important person at Google, but he actually is just a dedicated yoga practitioner. And being discerning, I was like, really? Like, we'll see. And so I started to talk to Gopi, and I just was immediately, my heart just opened, and everything just kind of melted when I realized the dedication that Gopi has to the practice of yoga and meditation, the level of learning and study that he's done, and the authentic story that has been the creation of this yoga program at Google, which is not in Gopi's bio at all. So, as I understand it, I'll just tell the story as I've heard it, as I've been able to understand it, is that Gopi had landed this dream job at Google. He was working crazy hours. He was completely stressed out. And at one point, he sort of reminded himself, oh, hey, I have a lifetime of yoga practice. How about I go outside on the Google lawn for just a moment and do just a few sun salutations, just a few minutes of the practice I know that's going to help me so I can get back in there and go, kill myself with this job. So he was doing this practice, and somebody sort of, before yoga was, cool, before people even really knew, before it was popular, and somebody sort of came up to him and said, hey, like, what are you doing? We're all sitting here eating and you're moving and stretching. And Gopi says, oh, I'm doing this thing. It's called yoga. I'm from India, but this is a thing. It's getting popular. It's really helpful. Why don't you do it with me? And so Gopi started teaching this class just authentically to one student. And then over the weeks, one student became 5 students, became 10 students, became 50 students. One class became 2 classes, became 5 classes, became 10 classes a week. Eventually, Google built a whole facility and studio where there are yoga classes and then multiple yoga classes going on at any given time. And over the years, it's built into where the office of Google has between 20 and 50 yoga classes every week just at the Google office. But it didn't stop there, because once that office became famous for its yoga program, all of the other Google offices all over the world got wind of what was happening in the Mountain View office, and they wanted a yoga program at their Google headquarters, 1 to 2 to 10 to 20 to now however many Google offices are all over the world. There are between 20 and 50 yoga classes at each one, which basically makes yoga, Google if not the top, one of the top 5 purveyors of yoga in the world. And Gopi created this, not because he wanted to build something, but just simply because he loved the practice of yoga, and he knew how much it helped himself and others to do their work and to find life balance in such a stressful environment. Gopi much as I have tried to push it on him, has never accepted any payment for his yoga teaching or meditation teaching or his speaking about yoga. He just gives this out of the kindness of his heart and his commitment to making the world a better place through yoga and meditation. So all of this makes him, for me, one of the people I most admire in the world. And Gopi, I'm just so honored and moved that you would come and speak to the gang here. Like I said, they've all done your practices, and once you've spoken to us, they've all got questions to ask you. And everybody, please welcome Gopi.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. I'll just quickly correct a couple things before that.
Okay. Fact check me.
Just a small one,
okay.
in a positive way. Most everything you said is correct. I mean, you're outside looking in. But before that, anyone on the call, if possible, this is totally optional, invitation only. I would invite you to turn your video camera on so I can see you. A lot of people are off, and you can see me and make eye contact with me. But many of you, thank you. Because this is how humans communicate. We look at each other, and this is how we become truly human. I look at you, you look back, we make eye contact. Now I can see, and Flavia, you look amazing. Emmy, you're beautiful and so charming. I could not tell all that when you were hidden behind a camera. So let's be present and show up in front. Thank you. And it's purely optional. Some of you may not be comfortable, but to the extent that you're willing to, please join me so that it can be interactive. And before I continue, a couple of things I want to add to what Sarah said. We've grown into about 260 classes a week at Google across our 80 offices around the world in some 50 plus countries. So that's extended. It's become the third largest yoga program in the world and the largest in a corporate setting. The other two are organizations whose full-time business is yoga. One is the Shivananda Ashram system that has so many classes, but this is what they do. That's the number one purpose. And the second is pure yoga in Hong Kong. For us, it's not a main thing, right? It's a very, very side function of what Google does in the world. But somehow it's turned out to be. And even during the pandemic, we had to quickly pivot. So during the pandemic, almost within days of the shutdown, we ended up with creating or setting up through partnerships with Glow, another organization, offering to Googlers 6,300 video-based classes. So you can do it anytime, whatever format you want, whatever style you have. But we didn't stop with it. We found there was a demand for people wanting to do online classes, and you may wonder why. Because yoga creates sangha or community. So just even if you're practicing in your bedroom or in your deck, the fact that you can watch others here, there's a teacher guiding you, even if you can only see them in a postage stamp screen, and the people were looking for connection. That's the reason why people do yoga. After all, the meaning of the word yoga is union, and people are seeking union through this practice for an hour, and you often see the same people. So we are stunned by that. Offered a test class, people came good feedback. So we then grew it to now more than 50 classes a week in 5 languages. It started Mandarin and Japanese, all times of the day and night. The idea being any time zone you can join. But one big thing that needs to be corrected with what Sarah said, and that is incorrect. She said, I built the salt. That is a lie. It's not possible. Okay, I did not. I lit a small spark when the first product manager came to me, Matthew Kowinski, and said, can you teach me some yoga? And I tried telling him no, but he pestered me. This is done by a group of people. Whenever anything big gets created, it is not one person's creation. Our ego tells us that, it's I did it and I led it. No, I provided some amount of initial spark, maybe some guidance, leadership, but this is a group of people working together. In fact, one of those people is on the call so we have a team of people. This is the 20% project concept at Google. These are Yoglers ambassadors. The program is called Yoglers. It is the yoga program for Googlers. And we have currently a global program manager who leads, and she works a lot harder at it. And Amalia Reeves, I saw her earlier in the call. Amalia? Yeah, great. And would you like to introduce yourself and for a minute or two, tell us about how you're leading Yoglers? So I would say people like Amalia are doing a much bigger job than I just am I'm just the name on the team, on the top of the team, but it's people like Amalia who are doing the actual work. So tell us, Amalia.
Oh, thank you, Gopi. Nothing like being put on the spot there. That's awesome. I am honored to be the new global program manager for Yoglers. The work that Yoglers does is amazing. We're very much just grassroots. We're all volunteers. We have another ambassador on the call as well. Satish is here, and he is the person who coordinated with Sarah to form this partnership with USC. So that's one of the outreaches that we do, partnerships with wonderful organizations where we can extend our reach a little bit more. Gopi is our corporate sponsor who helps us come up with ideas and learn how to scale Yoglers. Right now it's a global program. Like he said, we have classes all day and night around the globe. We just recently did an International Week of Yoga where we had Sarah join us for information about, she led a lecture called The Journey of Sleep and took us through some wonderful, wonderful teachings on how important sleep is for us. So we just really try to keep Googlers healthy. A big focus is on their wellness and on their happiness. We like the workforce to be rested, relaxed, resilient, able to produce and bring you wonderful offerings like this. So thank you so much for having us and allowing us to sit in and listen to Gopi. It's always illuminating and always such a pleasure.
Thank you, Amalia. Thank you very much. And Amalia is actually you're speaking also to this group, right? In a few weeks, are you? Or are you just joining us today?
I am not. I am just joining and helping Sarah on the back end.
So if Satish is here, I didn't realize he was here. If you're, Satish, turn your mic on, I can see you. So just quick, or maybe not. He's going to be speaking in a few weeks. Satish, are you on?
Hi, Gopi. Let me turn on.
Just a quick introduction so they get to know the name and the face. And so Satish actually works on artificial intelligence on the cloud team, but he's also our head of partnerships programming and does a lot of work and very, very studied in yoga, understands it at a philosophical level, not just the physical exercise. And I'll embarrass him by saying, when I discovered an odd fact, actually Sarah's the one who honored it. He is a direct descendant of a 16th century poet laureate from India, who you could say was associated with the Bhakti path, which is one of the yoga paths. And he can actually trace his lineage back to, is it Anapaka Talapaka? What's the?
Talapaka.
Yeah, the last name, yeah. So anyway, so just a couple of very short introduction because you'll be hearing from Satish in this session. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Gopi. Nice to meet everyone. I was not expecting to be on the camera. Yoga practice, listening to Gopi. So yeah, I'm excited to speak to you guys in about a month now, or maybe less than that. So yeah, I work in cloud AI, working on some of the industrial AI products, like the goal with like making sure we have a better place than what we have, like helping the climate change and things like that. That's my passion. And we use AI to do that. And yoga is my other passion, right? So everything what we do is a karma yoga, right? Helping people out.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you very much. Yeah. So with that, now let's jump right into it. And everybody please stand up. Since this is about yoga and mindful awareness, let's move our body in some modified yoga poses as best as we can do. Bring your hands up and touch your palm together. And see if you can push your press palm towards the ceiling. Take a nice long inhale and exhale while you're there. Just notice how your body's responding to what it's doing. And we'll add a standing modified triangle. I'll move to my right. So as you exhale, slowly move to your right. So it looks like you're mirroring. So your right, wherever. Just kind of feel the stretch towards your left side and come back to center. And take a nice long inhale and exhale. So flow with the breath. You're not just kind of moving randomly, but you're moving with awareness, noticing which muscle groups in your right side is engaging as you come back up. And come back to center. Interlock your fingers, turn your palms away from you, push it to the ceiling. And this time, as you inhale, see if you can stretch up every which way. That is, push your palms up, come onto your tippy toes. So it allows your whole body to stretch, and see if you can spine grow taller, and exhale and set it down. Let's explore that one more time. Inhale and up, and exhale and down. And bring your hands on your hips, thumbs touching at the base of the spine. Let's have a standing backward bend. So modified cobra. As you inhale, slowly lean back, drop your head back, chest back, and just kind of gently, just allowing your natural body weight to unwind towards the back. See how far can you go without losing your balance, and comfortably, without straining. It feels nice. And exhale and come back to center. And let's add a little spinal twist to it. Open up your hands. Take a nice long breath, and with awareness, as you exhale, slowly rotate to the left. And again, you're not simply mechanically turning, but you're noticing which vertebra is actually turning most, which is turning less. And as you slowly continue to push, how is that changing? So part of what we're doing is building that awareness and presence in your body. Take a breath here. And as you exhale, come back to the center and rotate to your right. Again, just see how far you will go, how far back in the room you can see, and which part of your spine is twisting more or less, what is releasing. And exhale and come back to center. Drop your hands by the side. We'll finish up with a standing simhasana, roaring lion. Okay, and the way we'll do this, we'll take a nice breath, and when you exhale forcefully, you will thrust down with your hands, open up your mouth wide, stick out your tongue, let out a big roar. Won't be able to hear you because most of you have microphone muted, but you'll be able to see me. Let's try that. Okay, let's do it once, and then you can watch what I'm doing and do it with me, and then we'll do a second time. Take a nice breath and go. Ah! Okay, so now follow instructions. I said not whimpering lion, but roaring lion. Okay. Shanisha is most amused, so is Nicole. They're like, I can't believe that I came for this great philosophical lecture, and now we are being made to play silly games. And if you had to complain to Sarah. She had no idea what she's getting into. One more time, take a nice long inhale, and let's go. Ah! Amazing. So we got all the aggression out, and this is a legitimate yoga pose. I didn't make it up. It's been around for 600 years. It stimulates the platysma at the base of the tongue. You can remain standing or sit down, and let's have a conversation. So I'll only speak, let me see what's the time, for about maybe 10 minutes or so. And then Sarah wanted it to be more interactive, so we'll have a conversation. That way I can hear from you. But any point, if you have a question or something, just type into the chat window or simply say question or comment, and that way I can hear from you. And if you don't mind, like in the classroom, I will occasionally call on you. And in fact, just to kind of test it out, Tanvi and Michelle, just go ahead and type a question or a comment or even a short phrase. And then at some point, Sarah will read it and say, Gopi, Tanvi wants to know about X, or Michelle, just to kind of, we get into the habit of making it engaging. Otherwise, these video conferences can get very tedious. So while I'm doing it, one of the most important concepts I want you to understand is simply this. All your life experience is being filtered by this technology. Whereas our focus is on, actually, I call it a technology. It's a very complex system. And human beings have been on this planet for 150,000 years. And one thing has been consistent across the number of organs in the human body has been the same. Any guesses? You can mouth it, type into the chat. How many organs are there in the body? You use your body all the time. You are highly educated students. Put a number in your chat window. I've got the chat turned on. Shanosha, what's your guess? Shanisha. Tula, what's your guess? Just type a number in.
It's Shanice.
Oh, Shanice, sorry. Thank you for correcting me. 750, right? Yeah, we don't know yet. We use our body all the time. Okay, according to Miss Google, It's 78 organs, 78 organs. But we now have a 79th organ in our modern life, one that you all had since you were born, which human beings did not have for the first 150,000 years of our existence. It is this little device we carry in the palm of our hands. It's like a human organ, right? We carry it everywhere. You touch it, it responds. You speak to it, it understands. It seems to have a mouth, it talks back to you. It has a brain. You can ask it any question. It seems to be able to answer it. And we keep it so close to our heart, walk around campus, wherever it's on UCLA, deep in prayer with it, right? So this has become the 79th organ in our body. And we've gotten used to this doing so much. It is a very, very sophisticated piece of technology, so tiny, and yet it can do amazing things. You can walk the streets of Japan and be translated in real time. You can click on it. It's a remote control to the world. A car shows up. Flowers get delivered at my door. I walk through the airport, and this becomes my boarding pass. This becomes my coffee ordering device at the Starbucks. But all of that is well and good. In the midst of all this, what Sarah will tell you and Amalia will tell you. Amalia, by the way, is also a body worker. We have a very large body program at Google, massage and other thing. It's actually Google we think Google engineers only work at Google, and people like Satish, brilliant engineers, do. But Amalia will tell you we are also the largest employer of massage therapists and body workers in the world, because it's a global program. Every office you can go, walk into a room during the middle of the day and get a massage or have a little body treatment done. So Amalia is one of the leaders of the program. Anyway, so Amalia and Sarah will tell you that in the midst of all of this, while our focus is on this technology, the most sophisticated, complex technology each of you will ever get to use is right here, your body. This is the ultimate sophisticated, complex electrical neuro system. It's a chemical factory. And depending on what chemicals are being produced in tiny amounts, either you're feeling good, or you can get upset, or you can be at peace, or you might do something very, very destructive and violent because of things changing. And we've all seen this, right? And if you don't believe me, you think of the last time when you put a good chemical in your body, like a steamed broccoli, versus something else that might have been a little more suspect, and how it changed your state immediately. All of this is going on. Even when you're sleeping, your dinner is being digested, it's becoming a piece of your brain. And we barely even understand it, why our brain behaves in certain ways on some mornings and some nights. This is the most complex technology. Our body, our brain, our mind, our breath. Every experience in your life, from the time you are born till the day you die, is being filtered by this technology. So what do I mean by that? Let me explain. So if Jill had dinner earlier today, it is being digested and it's being processed in Jill's mind. And if Suhas is trying to listen to me and make sense, my words, my expression, my gestures are going through his ears, eyes, etc. He's processing in his brain, and he's landing with certain messages. And if I were to turn around and ask Nicole to explain what I just spoke about, her version will be slightly different, because her system processed it in a very different way. Okay, it might have paid attention, it might have drifted away. Same way with, you listen to a piece of music, and the exact same piece of music, Tula might be moved to tears, and Michelle might start dancing because it does things to her body and it makes us respond. So all of your life experience is being filtered by this layer. If you don't have a functioning body, you have no life experience. Doesn't matter what it is, from food to music to trying to understand the most sophisticated philosophy, you need this in a high functioning system. If you agree with me, give me a 2 thumbs up. If you disagree with me, saying I didn't quite get it, then give me a thumbs down. So that way at least I know everyone's tracking. Good, okay. So that's one fundamental thing I want you to understand. The second is, you're all young, intelligent, highly motivated, highly driven, enthusiastic group of people. And you are here, you are driven by expressing yourself in some way. And you're just beginning to think about what will be your life expression and what will be expression this weekend. And you do it through music, you do it through dance, you want to go have an impact, you may want to go work in a leadership role, you may want to serve in your little community, you may want to change the food growing system. You all are trying to do different, you all have different ambitions, and this will change over time. But you do want to have, without question, every one of you want to have some impact on this world. You want to do something meaningful. You want your life to mean something. If that wasn't the case, you would not have enrolled in the programs. And each of you viewing that purpose in your life in a different way. Some of you are like, I'm not quite figured out, but I do know I want to change the world. I want to make a difference. I want to be a force for positive. All of your self-expression, this is what I call it. It is each one of your self-expression. And Tanvi has a particular idea in her mind, and Wakefield might be thinking about differently. And Emmy has her own intention around how she wants to express herself. And could be starting a company, it could be teaching in a kindergarten school, it could be composing some music or just playing live music. All of our self-expression also has to come from this. So think about it for a minute. Any great accomplishments, any modest accomplishments, it comes because we do something with our hands. It comes because we speak words and it moves people. It comes because we use our brain to write a great business plan, develop a piece of technology, or to create the next most amazing movie. So again, for each of you, each of us, there is no self-expression outside of this technology. Okay, so there is no life experience, there is no self-expression. Does that make sense? Again, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down if that feels logical. Okay, so you're all in agreement with that. So far, good. So therefore, logically going to the next step, if you put this inner technology into a state of peak performance, you experience life at a peak state, you express yourself at a peak state. Right? If somebody could tell you, say, here are the 5 sets of things you do. If you do these, your body will be in a state of peak state, it'll be performing, it'll be high functioning. Then everything you experience, from the food you digest to the way you respond to a piece of music, will be at the highest possible potential. Same way your self-expression also goes up, how you deal with problems, how creative you are, how much energy you put into the dance or the piece of music you play gets better if this is high functioning. If you're like low on energy, you haven't slept well, you're tired, whatever is your self-expression, you've known this, right? You can't study hard, you sit in class, you don't seem to understand it if you haven't slept well, if you party too hard. So that you know through life experience. Renee, you're laughing. You have the most experience of this all, right? So it's like, I know it.
I'm much closer to 60 than I am to 16. So my partying days are way behind me. I'm a late in life doctoral student, but I do agree with what you were saying about the condition of our body and the quality of what we're able to accomplish.
Yeah, and it's not simply the body at a physical level, it's a brain and it's functioning, it's your emotional state, something no one can touch, it's your mind and how it deals with issues that come up. All of this is the total system. Now, the Western medical system primarily focuses on the physical body. Now it's beginning to look in, but in these kind of holistic Eastern system, they look at you as a composite whole, as this complex being made up of your body, your mind, your emotions, this thing called love that we think, and also other things like anger, everything working in harmony. And the chemicals created in our body with our food and our habits and our exercise and the sugar we put in, etc., has its own, they start controlling it in different ways. So if you understand these two concepts, you realize that you will have the best life if you put this technology into a state of peak performance. So the question is, how do you do it? Okay, how do you do it? Fortunately, we don't have to solve the problem. Other human beings have done this before us. They have figured this. They experimented with the bodies. They have left enough clues for us. And this is how all of the wisdom practices and traditions from all over the world has come. And you have to try and understand and appreciate the amazingness of it, that whether it's Native American traditions, or something like yoga and meditation that comes from India, or maybe Tibetan practices, or Chinese healing systems at a very holistic level, or something like Ayurveda from India. So people have figured this out, and you just have to look at them. And I always say the operating manual is available to us. And our simple responsibility is to study it, pick up what works for you. You don't have to adopt all of it, it'll be overwhelming. Just pick pieces of it and start living that way. Something as simple as food. There's a lot of research through experiments people are left. And the wisdom generally that's accepted is the healthiest food seems to be, no matter how innovative and technologically sophisticated we get, eating whole foods that come from a plant, tree, or bush seems to be the healthiest. The minute humans touch it, process it, send it through a factory, it starts getting worse and worse from a nutrition point of view. And there's enough body of research on that. But this 100 years ago, people were saying this. When I was studying at the yoga ashram, I was encouraged to eat more and more plant-based food as close to its natural state as possible. So that sort of wisdom is available to us. So the operating manual is. So that brings me to two great systems that actually work at this level. And this is where yoga and meditation are two. They're not the only two. There are 200 of these. Again, feel free to figure this out. Experiment. Treat your entire life as an experiment. Try different things and see what really puts your internal state into a peak state. And depending on your objectives and your desires, you may go in different directions. I have embraced yoga and meditation as two of my anchor practices. I fell into it by accident when I was a teenager in India running away to an ashram, and it stayed with me all these years. So why do those systems work very well? This is the reason why they're so popular in a place like Google. So what is the connection with, how did Google end up promoting and supporting this? So Google has two programs, Yoglers for the asana practice, and it's got something called G-Pause, G as the Google acronym logo, G for Google, G-Pause. Pause is take a moment and pause from the frenzy of a life through meditation. The current global general manager, leader of the G-Pause program, Ruchika, will be speaking in the same series in a few weeks from now. So why would this company with the highest level of technology and sophistication, one of the most advanced in terms of tech and one of the big names in internet, embrace these practices that go back 600 years ago, 1,000 years ago, on the case of meditation, even back, because you can trace it back all the way to Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, and he lived, 2,600 years ago. So at least there's recorded evidence, when he came up with this system of meditation. So why is a company like Google? Because Google also has figured out, it's got the smartness to realize the reason what drives the innovation at Google is the extremely smart humans who work at Google, with the singular exception of me. And they work best when they are in a high functioning state. When the body and mind is in a peak state, that's when they solve the biggest problems. That's when they can imagine that you can take the entire map of the world and put it in the pocket, in the palm of your hands, in the form of a phone for every human being. This is the kind of creativity your brain has to think differently to say, I can make a car that'll drive itself, and therefore it'll kill fewer people because there's no human to cause mistakes when driving the car. All of this kind of innovation. So Google encourages this, knowing that these modalities put us into a state of peak performance. So with that, I'm going to pause and go into Q&A mode. The rest of what is yoga and meditation, I don't need to talk. I think this is a self-selected group. I'll just add one more piece of it. In a time like this, and in the midst of this pandemic, our lives have changed dramatically. And even more so, these practices help one deal with it. How so? So to begin with, I do yoga pretty regularly. Today, I opted to do interval training with a group of Googlers, all via video. But our body needs movement. Our functional movement is dramatically decreased. You don't even walk to a car. We don't walk to a shopping lot, to the restaurant. Even at Google, between meetings, I had to walk. Here, the meeting is in the same chair, exactly where I'm standing. I push another button. So even that minimal functional movement is gone. I used to walk over 10,000 steps. And if I don't deliberately, consciously do it, it's gone to 400 steps. Our body needs much more than that. So it very quickly starts deteriorating. It goes from a high functioning state to a medium and a low functioning state. 1 year of doing this, if I don't consciously fix that, take steps, then the change will be dramatic. And some of you might already be feeling in your body, depending on where you live, etc. So I use yoga as one of the ways by which, in a very systematic way, I do even more of it than before. I used to teach one class a week, and now I teach two. Same way with meditation. It's a mental, much like you use asana practice in yoga or go to the gym to train your physical body, you want to train your mind and mental body as well. And this is where the practice of meditation, mindfulness, allows you to do that. You are taking what is a monkey-like mind that is all over, can't seem to control it. It acts on its impulses to then quell it, come back and rein it in. And again, the analogy I want you to think of what you're doing with meditation is, when you get a puppy, the puppy is adorable, and you take it and say, sit and put it there. What does the puppy do? It runs away. It goes, something will catch its attention and will go away. And then you pick it up and say, no, puppy, I said sit, bring it back. Cute, it's adorable, it's a puppy. And again, as soon as you leave the puppy off and get up, it chases in some other direction. Completely unruly, right? And you've all seen this, those of you who had puppies have seen that. This is for the most part, our minds are, including, for me at this stage, on day to day, it can act like this. I can't even focus and get something done. So meditation is like, in the case of the puppy, eventually, every trained dog, you've seen this, that little puppy finally understands sit means sit, and more than a human, it'll just sit there. There are dogs, you tell it to sit, you come back an hour later, they haven't moved an inch. How did that unruly puppy go to it? That's training. If you can do it to a dog, we should be able to do our mind, except our minds don't cooperate. Our minds still continue to be unruly. And the practice of meditation, and it's a slow process, allows us to tame our mind. And once it's tamed and it's controlled, we are the masters in the sense of we can use our mind to your command. You don't get emotionally triggered. People can say things to you, you may not be affected by it. You know how to process it. And which is why, a meditator, you cannot, a long-term meditator, it's impossible to rock them off like you. And we all want to be like that. When we don't have that capability, this is when, in extreme cases, we act out and respond to a trigger from outside. And what do? And we've seen this in America many, many times. We go get a weapon of mass destruction and then go take out the lives of innocent people who have nothing to do with your situation, right? You go postal. So that's an unruly mind at work. And we've witnessed this all day. Every day there's at least one piece of news, not all day, sorry, but every day we see at least one piece of news of that happening. So that's really the underlying anchor of those two practices, why I've embraced it, why it's done. So during the midst of the pandemic, you do it even more, because now you give a body a method of regulation. You give a mind something to deal with, the anxiety of the pandemic, the fact that you cannot travel. We have to let go also a lot of things. We cannot see our friends. We have to cancel so many things in our life. We don't even know when all this will change and we might go back to what we think is a normal life. But these practices help you lose your attachment to what is impermanent, which is the cause of much of our problems in life. We chain ourselves to the impermanent and then can refuse to let go. And these practices allow you to step back, witness things going on, and eventually they have less of a grip on you and our state. So I can go on this for a lot of time, but let me pause here and start engaging with you and inviting you to chat and interact till we got about 15 minutes or so. So have any questions come up?
Perfect.
Yeah,
Gopi,
okay.
That was great. Thank you so much for that. We that covered everything. That covered everything. You really nailed it. And thank you so much also for speaking to the issue of how we are in the pandemic, as if all the stuff weren't challenging enough. So thank you for throwing some of that in. We had Jill. Jill, you sent a really great question. I'd love for you to throw that out there.
Jill did. I'm not seeing in the chat, or maybe she sent it to you.
No, we sent it all. They sent me questions beforehand.
Oh,
so
okay,
I had to filter some through. So I have.
And who did I call on? I remember Tanvi and Wakefield. Okay, you're right. Because after Jill, let's go to Wakefield, and we'll go to Tanvi and Wakefield.
Okay, great.
All right, Jill. It can be a question or a comment, and I want everybody. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Sarah, for making this opportunity possible, and Gopi for joining us and all your advice today. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. So the question that I had for you, Gopi, was when you speak of yoga as a means to connect to your greater self, what does the greater self really mean? And I know in your video you talked about how there's the individual self and then the greater self. Why do you think these two selves are naturally not one?
They are actually one. We think they're not one because of an idea of sense of separation. And I'd like to explain this with an analogy. So if you take an ice cube and it's made of water, but the ice cube is an inch across and it's at 0 degrees centigrade or even colder, and it's solid. And you take the ice cube to the ocean and assume that the ice cube can speak, and you say, Mr. Cool Eyes or Miss Cool Eyes, look at this vastness of the ocean. And the ice cube will say, wow, this is amazing. Look at its size and grandeur, but I have nothing to do with this. I've got this limited existence, 1 inch by 1 inch, and I won't even survive too long because I'm going to melt in your hands. And my life is about another 3 minutes. And you show the Amazon River, the world's mightiest river, 5 times bigger than the next biggest river in the world, Nile. And the ice cube will be gasp in awe. But ice cube will say, I am not that river. That river can flow across 4 countries with its giant output of water, but I'm this little solid thing with a temporary existence. And you saw a big cloud and the majesty, the magnificence, the impossibility of the cloud. It's 5,000 tons of water hanging in the sky. How is it even possible, right? This notion. That's how much fire, even giant clouds weigh 50,000 tons of water, and yet it's floating there like cotton candy. So all of these phenomena, the ice cube will be in awe. But you take that ice cube and let's say you drop it into the ocean. The ice cube has now melted into the ocean. It no longer has its separate existence. It's lost that sense of separation. All the molecules in the ice cube have fully merged with the ocean. And at this point, the ice cube is such a vast body of water. In fact, if you drop it in the Pacific Ocean, it could be in the Indian Ocean, it could be in Atlantic, because this names are things we assign. Nature has no names. It is one large body of water connected to each other, covering 70%. So large that big tankers float on it like tiny corks. So large that the ice cube in itself, the ice cube has now become part of the ocean, contains depths that are deeper than how tall Mount Everest is, like Mariana Trench, for example, of Philippines. And that's how vast the ice cube has become. The same ice cube that thought its existence was contained and limited. And at some point, the water is going to evaporate and become part of the cloud. The same ice cube is now part of that 50,000 ton body of water in the sky. And then eventually the cloud may come down as rain and merge in the Amazon. And the ice cube is now part of the giant river. Why? Because the ice cube lost its sense of identity by itself. It was no longer trapped. This is how we are, the individual self gel. Now I walk around saying, I'm Gopi, this is my identity, I have this job at Google, this is my hair color, I live in this place in San Francisco, and we get trapped by our identity. And then I look at you and feel a sense of separation. I look at Nicole and I think in some way we are different. We otherize others, right? With some notion, we put these labels. And I think that Tula is different from me and Satish is different from me. And in extreme cases, that sense of separation makes me even pull away. In very extreme cases, it makes me do not very good things to them. I discriminate against them. I treat them, and we humans do it to each other with this sense of separation. The collective self is that some level of intelligence or consciousness. And at that point, I'm grasping because I reached the limits of what my mind and brain can understand and articulate. But I do believe that there is some incredible cosmic intelligence that makes this universe runs. How else do you explain that we are in this giant ball spinning around at speed and none of us are flying off, and we'll come back and we're going to go around this huge ball of fire that's 50 times larger, and exactly 365 and a quarter days later be back at the same point. And this has been happening for how long? 4.5 billion years. That's how long the planet Earth has been, 4.5 billion years. There must be some intelligence that is sort of governing all of this. And you can call it whatever you want. No matter how much we use physics to explain, we quickly run out of the limits. The scale of it is just too astonishing for me. And that is what I think of as the conscious self. Now, in Indian philosophy, we call it Atman and Brahman. Atman is the individual self. Brahman is this universal consciousness. You may or may not subscribe to that. But that's a philosophical system that I personally am most persuaded by. I'm not by any means saying that is the only one. That would be wrong of me. But that's what I meant by individual self and conscious self. So yoga helps you lose that sense of self and find union. First, union with yourself, when you realize you're an integrated whole, much larger than you think. Much like the ice cube had to lose its sense of limitation. The ice cube had to feel that I could be that water. I could have the vastness of the ocean. We have to get to that stage, and the practice helps you do that. Then you push past it and you start feeling a sense of identity and connection with everyone else, with Sarah, with Renee, with Michelle, with Jensine, with Emmy. And then eventually you find that sense of connection with the vastness of all of creativity, not just on this earth, but you start understanding you're part of the cosmic whole. And that part, it becomes highly theoretical for me. I understand the construct. I cannot even begin to comprehend. It's way beyond my imagination, much like the ice cube completely lost it when you suggested that it could be the vastness of the ocean. Hopefully, I explained it through an analogy and it making some sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really good analogy and explanation. Like, I think it's basically just how, like, we as individuals are only debilitators and restrictors, and how yoga is a way to, like, deconstruct that and find a way to, I guess, step back from the limitations that we've placed on ourselves.
Yeah. So I'll tell you this before Tanvi goes to a question. I seriously believe that one of the best solutions to a lot of the problems, societal problems we're dealing with right now, racial injustice and inequities and divisiveness and separation between countries and subgroups, and it's happening all over the world. It's not just in this country, but we're witnessing a lot of it. A lot of it could go away if everyone adopted that yogic stance of losing your sense of separation, that othering, and found our sense of identity with everyone else. Because it is a sense of separation that makes us, to begin with, competitive. I get jealous because your house is bigger than mine. I feel I am less than adequate because Sarah has more money than me, more jewelry than me, whatever it is. More beauty than me. That is true, so I just have to surrender to that. Now, but this notion that we have makes us competitive because we sense of, when we find that sense of identity, we are no longer competitive, we are highly cooperative. And in an extreme case of that sense of separation, we act in not very proud ways with each other, right? We start otherizing, discriminating, and in very extreme cases, which we witness, there's violence and real mistreatment of others. How else do you explain one human enslaving another one, or wanting to go all over tens of thousands of miles away from your home country with the explicit purpose of killing, plundering, and looting? And throughout history, we have done that. It's not just something we're witnessing, right? Not just a case of powers that we now, throughout history, we never seem to learn. But if we lose that sense of separation, we would stop doing it. Why don't you hurt your own body? With rare exceptions, we don't do it, right? You understand, you're not going to take your hand, take a knife and stab yourself on another side because you feel you're an integrated whole. So you preserve all parts of it. If you are some person of reasonable intelligence, why? Because you want a composite whole. You're not going to pluck your eye out, but you're ready to pluck someone else's eye out, which has been done, and it seems morbid and terrible, but humans have done things like that. Because I'm separate. It's his eye, it's her eye, not mine. And if you lose that sense of separation, I think much of our problems in the world will disappear overnight. We would never have another person. Oh, thank you for that applause. We would not starve because the world produces enough food for every human. But there's a distribution problem. Because we protected his mind, we erect tariffs and we get competitive and price it and not allowed to travel from one part of the world to another. And as a result, we have people starving, even though some of us grow enough food for the rest of us. Or nature provides, right? Thank you. Tanvi, you.
Hello. So the question that I have is something that I've personally experienced, and I'm sure that a lot of people do in this pandemic. it's to do with the guilt that you feel when you're sort of taking time out for yourself, or you're doing something apart from, what you're supposed to be doing. So like, why do we feel that guilt, and how do you sort of get over it?
Yeah. So Tanvi, first of all, I don't think it's guilt. You should actually, I would reframe it and I would say you should be proud of what you're doing. Because what you've done, hear me out, if you're staying at home and not going out and making sure you don't get the pandemic or the coronavirus, you have taken unconditional responsibility for not getting sick. Okay? Because that's one thing we know. Based on the protections I use, minimal contact, using masks when I go out, washing my hands, etc., I have taken unconditional responsibility to make sure I don't get coronavirus. That is not an act of selfishness. First, it's an act of taking care of this technology, because I know this system will perform less better if I get coronavirus than if I don't. So I will do everything possible not to let it come. It's natural. That's an intelligent being making the decision. Second, if you don't get it, if you get it and you become seriously ill, you have to be, the medical system has to respond. That's already under pressure. So if you stay out of the way, now you're part of the solution. If you get sick and end up in ICU, you're now part of the problem. So it's our responsibility to, as much as possible, to be part of the solution. Third, if you get it, there's a high chance that, especially given your age, you probably will be asymptomatic for a long time, and you'll go around the world and spreading it. And then you have now become a serious part of the problem. You give it to 200 people, as we have seen in some of the urban spreaders that have happened, extreme spreaders, that situations have happened. So by taking this very intelligent decision, I think you are being smart and you're being responsible to the rest of the world. Now, it is true that not everyone has the privilege and choice to do that. Okay, some people have to go to work, and like in India, I keep reading about some people, that's the only livelihood, so they are. So you don't have to feel guilty, but rather you feel blessed that these are your circumstances. We can't control, yeah, go on.
Yeah, what I meant was more towards not just the pandemic, but it's like something that a lot of people do experience on a regular basis. Like, you have done everything you can on your to-do list, and yet, by the end of the day, you still feel guilty for those 2 hours that you spent with yourself. Like, you feel bad for watching that movie, or, you feel bad for just not doing anything. Like, how to get rid of that guilt that you feel when you're just spending time with yourself?
Yeah. And this is where the yoga philosophy, they say you have viveka, or discrimination, and you make some choices. On this Saturday, I actually slept till 11 or so. I felt so tired the night before. I was supposed to be recording that next piece of music that I'm doing based on the Bhagavad Gita, and I just canceled all that. And you can say I'm just being selfish and reckless, but I just felt that was a need. That is not, I was taking care of myself. And our ultimate responsibility, number one responsibility, is to take care of this, because no one else can do it. I can give you some guidelines. So we have to take unconditional responsibility for taking care of this. So if that 2 hours of movie means this is your brief time to rest and relax and just enjoy yourself and ground yourself, I think that's totally okay. Don't feel guilty. Celebrate that you are looking after yourself. But if you were in front of the TV watching binge watching, I don't have Netflix, so give me the name of one of the shows that, whatever, it's the latest one that everyone is watching. See, I'm so terrible at it. Game of Thrones, okay, let's say. I know it's a while ago. I don't have Netflix, that's a choice I've made. So in that sense, you can say, do I feel less guilty? No, I made a choice that between spending 80 hours watching a single season of Game of Thrones, I'd rather spend the 80 hours biking and doing my music and teaching yoga and talking, these kind of sessions. So you discriminate. And if you spend 80 hours watching, that might seem like a reckless use of your time, not being responsible at the price. At any point, you have to make a choice. I have time, I have this energy, what do I want to spend on? And if you're feeling guilty, I would say meditate. And meditate on what is the root of the guilt. And that'll start, your internal system will start giving you answers. And you might be able to reframe that. In some ways, we could say, right now, I should be working around the house. You're all just sitting there in a chair and having the pleasure of listening to me. Do you feel guilty about it? No, we are actually engaging in serious study and contemplation through these things. Thank you, Tanvi. Okay, so congratulations. You should celebrate that. Well done that you took 2 hours to take care of yourself and didn't worry about the to-do list. The to-do list is like an endless river. It keeps going. Thank you.
Another thing that I
Sure.
had was the part that you said about, our body being the entire system. I feel like at the crux of it, it all comes down to you respecting your body. I feel like us as young individuals don't do that a lot, especially in terms of the food we consume, or, in college, we're sort of drinking and doing everything. So at the end of the day, I think it all boils down to learning how to respect your body.
Yeah. And I understand it's okay, because you're also at that point in life, you're experimenting, you're testing things, and you're drawn to different things. And eventually, and also you feel you can handle anything your bodies can handle. And you're at that age, it can get away with a lot. It can go to a party and drink alcohol or take ecstasy and dance till 3 a.m. and still be able to go to class and function and all that. But at some point it starts, the body starts communicating to you. Some people listen and they fix it. Some people don't. And then you start paying a price. And that's why you're serious illnesses, early deaths, you kill yourself, you drink and get behind a car wheel, lots of things happen, right? This unfolds. And so you're going through that fear, you're going through that phase. But you're also, you chose to come here today. This was offered to the entire school. There were 30 of you who chose to do this. You're spending 1 hour of your time listening to some random dude speak about some ancient philosophical system with a strange accent and a strange name. Right? You chose to do that. You didn't. And you might go and party later, but you feel like this is a good use of your time. And that's a discriminative choice you're making. And over time, every day you start applying to it. And it's not easy with all of these practices. I fall off the wagon every day. And I do things that later I say I should not have, including eating more food than my body needs and craving. But this is a slow process. Be patient with it. This is training and conditioning. And getting to a mastery will take a lot of years. So it's like when you start your course, like I think it was Chenchen, right? She's doing dentistry, Jill or Chenchen, yeah, she's studying dentistry. In the beginning, she's like, I have no idea what goes on inside a person's mouth. But after 8 years of study, she's like, I know exactly how to do root canal. That doesn't happen overnight. The same way with understanding this, it's a process. Be patient with it, take it one lesson at a time, and you will get there. Until you get there, you'll do lots of crazy things with life, and that's it. So, Sarah, I just want to do a time check. Thank you. What is the time now? 6:05. You're 5 minutes past.
We gotta wrap it up, because we've gotta keep our word to all of our people here. Do you have any last thing you want to say? Yeah.
I'll just take, Wakefield, did you have a quick question? I might even just answer in like one short sentence. Since I asked him, he might be ready and about to speak, or you can say no.
I do have a question, but for time, I can ask next time if that's
just say the question. I'll give you a short answer. You got 10 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Go.
My question was, so I'm in like the MBA program, and there's a lot of focus on performance. So I was curious about how performance is measured, and if that should even be the focus, or if yoga is a bigger picture, as you said, like connecting with the self and sort of these bigger ideas.
How do you measure performance in yoga or at Google? I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, so when you implement yoga, let's say at Google or people in general, it's, you'll see what they were like without yoga, and presumably after they did yoga or meditation, their performance got better, they were more creative, they had better problem solving and so on.
Yeah, in the traditional, I'll answer it very quickly. In the traditional yoga system meditation, you don't measure it because it's not a competition. It's not proving any sort of moral superiority. You only measure it in terms of your own inner transformation, and you are the judge. If you have a teacher, the teacher is the only person allowed to make a judgment call and they may guide you. But otherwise, for the most part, you use your own internal yardsticks. You look 5 years from now, how was it? In fact, if others point it out, you're not even supposed to get attached to it because that's your ego then talking. At Google, we do, because these programs always have metrics, etc. Right? We look at how many people come, what is the self-reported number. In the case of meditation, we've done studies with Stanford University. We'll take like a test group and a control group and say if the control group, the test group meditated, are they performing better in their jobs? So we've looked at studies like, and a lot of those are available. Neuroscientists are doing it, exercise kinesiologists are doing it. So you do look at the performance measurement, but in the class, that's because this is the collision of the Western traditions and need for proof and scientific evidence through double-blind study and an Eastern philosophy coming. But in the core traditional classical philosophy, we don't measure, because the minute you put measurement around it, it starts putting competition and metrics. It'll just go against the very grain of it. The only purpose is transformation. It's a slow process. You don't need to measure. You're guaranteed to get there. Just be patient. And there's all the time in the world to do it. Thank you, Wakefield. Back to Sarah. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. So Gopi, I actually had a whole list of questions from several people. Would it be okay if I email those to you and you can just maybe give a word or two back to me and I can send them back to the people who asked?
Yeah.
Just a word or two.
Sure, yeah. Or you can answer them yourself too. You know the thing.
Oh, okay. Well, some of them were specific.
No, but do email me. I'm very curious. And I'm more than happy.
I did get a lot of really good ones. So I do want to honor those, but I do want to honor everybody else's, your time and everybody else's time. Thank you.
I have one ask for this group.
Oh, okay, what's that?
And it's not for you, it's for everyone else there. So I've been to UCLA twice. Once was to speak at the Heart
USC.
USC, sorry. USC.
Hey, UCLA, it's a rival.
Sorry, USC. So when I came, it was to speak at a meditation, and then Sarah had me come and teach at the yoga program. But everything I've heard about USC is that it's an incredible party school. I have never been invited to one of the parties. I get invited to this yoga and meditation thing because I have friends like Sarah. So we got to change that. You people have access to the most incredible parties. So once coronavirus is off and you're allowed to party again, let me know in secret, okay? Come in. I'd love to come and party with USC students. And so that's my ask. How come I get invited only to the yoga mindfulness program, not to the parties, at a party?
You're so funny. So once they start having parties again, right? So, because of course, right now everybody's in lockdown. No one's supposed to be meeting. This has just been so much more fun and interactive than I even had hoped. And just thank you so much for taking the time to speak to all of us. And everyone's going to email me their questions. I'll send a few of them on to you. We'll kind of create some ongoing dialogue. Gopi, thank you so much for kicking us off with a bang as per usual. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.